I've been building a SaaS platform for churches, something I'm calling ShepherdScore Cloud. The initial problem I set out to solve was the fragmented and often manual process small to medium-sized churches use for member engagement tracking and communication. Often, they rely on spreadsheets, disparate email lists, or clunky, outdated software that costs an arm and a leg and is barely configurable. My goal was to create a focused tool, not an all-in-one church management system, but something specific, a health score for member engagement. This meant tracking interactions, attendance, giving, and communication history to give church leaders a quick snapshot of who might be disengaging or falling through the cracks. It's a niche, but one I'll understand well from my own community work here on the Gulf Coast. The initial tech stack decision was critical, focusing on speed of development and low operational overhead. My first major decision was the front-end and back-end framework. I settled on Next.js for the front-end. The server-side rendering and static site generation capabilities are great for performance and SEO, which is always a consideration for a public-facing product. But more importantly, the developer experience with React and TypeScript is something I'm comfortable with, allowing me to move quickly. For the back-end, I chose Supabase. I've used it for several smaller projects, and it's essentially a Postgres database with a suite of integrated tools, authentication, real-time subscriptions, and a REST-full API. This meant I wouldn't need to spin up a separate Node.js or Python backend server for most of my API needs. Supabase handles a lot of the heavy lifting, letting me focus on the unique business logic of ShepherdScore. This combination felt like a sweet spot for a solo developer trying to launch a functional SaaS efficiently. Authentication was another critical component. I initially considered rolling my own with Supabase's built-in auth, but after looking at the complexities of magic links, password resets, and robust security features, I opted for Clerk. Clerk handles a ton of edge cases and provides beautiful, customizable React components out of the box. Integrating Clerk with Next.js is straightforward, and it plays nicely with Supabase. When a user signs up through Clerk, I use a Supabase Edge function to create or update their corresponding profile record in my profiles table, linked by the user ID provided by Clerk. This ensures that every authenticated user has an entry in my database where I can store application-specific metadata. It saved me weeks of development time and, more importantly, provides a much more secure and feature-rich authentication experience than I would have built on my own. Then came the challenge of payments. For SaaS, especially one targeting churches, a flexible and affordable payment processor is essential. I evaluated Stripe, PayPal, and Square. While Stripe is the industry standard for SaaS, I decided to go with Square. My reasoning was twofold. Many small businesses and churches in my target market already use Square for their point-of-sale systems or online giving, so there's a familiarity there. Secondly, Square's API for subscriptions felt slightly more tailored to the recurring billing model I was building without the extra complexity often associated with Stripe's more general-purpose platform. I needed to handle tiered subscriptions, a free tier, a basic tier, and a premium tier. This involved setting up product plans in the Square dashboard, and then using the Square Connect API to manage customer subscriptions. The initial integration focused on creating customers and subscriptions, and then handling webhook events for payment successes or failures. The subscription flow required several moving parts. On the front end, after a user selects a plan, I send a request to a Next.js API route, say /API/Square/create subscription. This API route then uses the Square SDK to create a customer and a subscription. Crucially, I also needed to link this Square customer ID back to the user's profile in my Supabase database. This is how my application knows what plan a user is on. When Square successfully processes a recurring payment, it sends a webhook to a designated endpoint in my application, /API/Square/webhook. This webhook handler then updates the subscription status for that user in Supabase. It's vital to handle retries and idempotency for webhooks, as they can sometimes be delivered multiple times. I implemented a simple check for duplicate event ID to prevent processing the same event twice, which can lead to incorrect subscription states. Managing the state of a user's subscription across Clerk and Supabase presented a small challenge. Clerk handles user authentication, but not their subscription status. So, my profiles table in Supabase became the source of truth for Planet, Square customer ID, and subscription status. I leveraged Supabase's real-time capabilities here. When a user's subscription status changes in Supabase, for example from pending to active after a successful payment webhook, My frontend can listen for these changes and instantly update the UI without needing a full page refresh. This provides a very responsive user experience. It also means that if I need to manually change a user's plan in the Supabase dashboard for any reason, the frontend will reflect that almost immediately, which is great for customer support scenarios. It's a small detail, but one that significantly enhances the application's perceived quality. The biggest cost consideration right now is development time. All these services, Next.js, Supabase, Clerk, Square, have generous free tiers or pay-as-you-go models that keep initial operational costs very low. For example, Supabase's free tier is sufficient for hundreds of thousands of requests and millions of rows, more than enough for initial launch and early customers. Clerk's free tier covers a good number of active users. Square takes a percentage of transactions, so it scales directly with revenue, which is ideal for a bootstrapped startup. My estimate for running the infrastructure for the first few paying customers, excluding my own time, is well under $50 a month. The focus is purely on building features, validating the product, and getting those first few paying customers. This lean approach is critical when building solo. Right now, I'm deep into building out the core ShepherdScore functionality, ingesting various data sources, like attendance records and communication logs, processing them into a meaningful score, and visualizing that for church leaders. The next major step, once the core features are stable, will be user testing with a few local churches here on the Gulf Coast. Their feedback will be invaluable in refining the feature set and ensuring it genuinely solves their problems. I'm building this publicly, sharing my progress and challenges. If you're an indie hacker or developer interested in the journey of building a SaaS from the ground up, consider subscribing. I'll be sharing more updates, including the technical specifics of the scoring algorithm and the results of early user feedback, in future videos.